Welcome to the exciting and new podcast. I'm Jason.
I'm Andy.
And I'm Brian.
And guest starring Brian Mack.
Brian Mack. Whoop, whoop. There we go. That's sound effects.
It was timed well. Good job, man.
I like that.
Very organic.
I remembered where it was.
That was a real order.
That was good. He was really happy too. He's like, I remembered where.
You've had that board in front of you for 2 years. You should have notes on them. Remember where
I
they are.
should.
All right, welcome.
What are we doing?
This week we're going to talk about Mac. You're here, and this is a movie that you picked. So why don't you tell us what the movie is this week?
Oh, gosh, it's A Clockwork Orange.
Clockwork Orange.
Yeah, it came out in 1971. Am I taking your job away from you?
71 is correct, but it was originally theatrical release here in the States was February 2nd, 1972.
Okay.
On HBO Max, it said 1971. So I was kind of like, I wasn't sure
that was
what.
like-
And that's where I saw it.
Yeah.
I think that was a British release.
Yes.
that
Yeah,
makes
there's
sense.
two different versions, actually.
Yeah.
Not of the movie, but of the book. Well, I don't know if we need to get into that yet here.
No, but that's
Yeah,
fine.
it's more than what-
I know
more
what you're
than-
talking
yeah.
about. I remember when I read this back in the day.
I read the
Like,
Anthony
like,
Burgess.
did you read the proper version? I was like, there's a second version. I never read the.
Yeah, it was like the United States version.
Was that
which
what it
they-
was? Was
yeah,
it-
they felt that
You don't
was
want the United States version. I read the English version.
right.
I
and
guess I read
that
the
has an
original.
extra chapter in it.
I read
right?
the English version, and also the English version has a glossary in the back for every word that you have no idea what it is.
which is most of the movie.
Is the definition is in the back, so you could turn page back.
Did they
to know
explain
what's
what
going
the Moloko, like
It's
the
all in there.
synthomes?
I was
It's all
on
in there, yeah.
I was on the
Different
Wikipedia page
Velocet.
today for an hour just looking at all the terms.
Those
And
were
it's
like-
my God, there are a lot of words that
Yeah.
make no sense, or they're a Russian word that they've just made English. And
Yeah, I mean-
it's crazy.
Trying to use vidi today. I kept trying
Vidi,
to say it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And Vidi they use a couple different ways because
They
Vidi was
did.
like I see you, or it's
Yeah.
like I'm watching TV as I'm
Yeah.
watching the
Yeah.
Vidi, or I'm
Yep.
like I'm videoing that. I'm like,
Yep.
why do you
Yeah.
keep changing the
Is that like
definition of a
video?
made up word?
After 10 seconds, I told Connor, I was like, we got to put on the subtitles.
Oh, definitely. This
Yeah,
was
and I did that for the first time.
this is
too.
the
I've
first
seen
time
it so many times without it, and it helped actually.
I use
with
the
the
subtitles.
subtitles.
I use the
Yeah.
subtitles a lot. with everything
I do
watch
too,
now.
and this is the first time I've ever watched the subtitles, and I got so much more out of it.
You'll
this
be
time.
surprised, man, because like like watching Game of Thrones. You learn a lot more. You hear like somebody talking off screen. It'll say like the name of the person that just
neat.
talked,
Or that
so you'll know
just
I mean,
whatever words they're saying. You're like, oh, that's what they're saying, because sometimes
Yeah.
you just like assume what they're saying, and
Or
then they're-
sometimes it's so
It's whispered
or it'll
under
be
a
like
breath,
such
yeah.
and such was in the background. You're like, oh, was
Yeah.
I didn't hear that, or insects trilling. That's one of my favorite. Insects trilling, and that's just like you hear like bug noises.
You want me to give a little bit more
So it was
about the movie?
is February 2nd, 1972. Running time is 2 hours, 16 minutes. That's a beer. Rated R. Directed by Stanley Kubrick, who passed in 1999 at the age of 70 from natural causes. Give me his top four, Andy.
Full Metal Jacket.
Is in his top four.
The Shining.
Is not in his top
Get
four.
the fuck out of here.
Barry Lyndon. Don't
Barry
tell me.
Lyndon is in his
Damn.
top
Okay,
four.
that was a long shot. I was
Barry Lyndon.
Yeah, that's
It's a
like his
good one,
first movie
actually.
or
Oh,
something.
really?
That's black and white, right?
no.
Oh, that's not black
No.
and white.
No.
It's really good. He did
Yeah,
it in
I've
place.
seen
He was
that, but
supposed
a
to do
long
it in
time ago.
Napoleon.
Clockwork
movie.
is in there, and
Wait, whoa. Do you have a guess?
No,
There's one big
I
one
only
that-
knew the shine. Oh, 2001.
There you go. That
2001
one's
is
gotta
the
be
other.
there.
That's it.
That's my favorite of his.
My dad fell asleep twice.
I'm going to
that
say
night.
going, your
He was hot.
2001
It
your
is
favorite.
long.
He was hot.
Yeah.
The Shining's my favorite of his.
Oh, yeah, I think The
I
Shining's
I still, to this day, still love The Shining.
Yeah.
more than
2001
Oh, I love The
is
Shining.
incredible, though.
2001's great. I love that movie. But
I would
also,
actually say I think my second favorite's Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah.
And
He did Full Metal
yeah,
Jacket.
and,
Yeah.
half that movie
Yeah.
I'm not crazy.
That's why it's so wacky.
I just told you it was. I just told you it was in his top four.
I said it was. I said it. And it was in his top four. But half that movie, I'm not that crazy about. Like the Vietnam part of that movie, I'm not crazy about. But the Paris Island shit is so good.
And I used to be
So
flipped on
good.
that. When I was younger, I was kind of like, I didn't give a shit about the beginning. It was interesting, but now that I understand it better.
And there's been
yeah.
so many like Vietnam movies. It's like
I
the
even-
stuff that's going on in Vietnam is just kind of like any Hamburger Hill.
I like
or-
Doctor Strangelove too. I think.
Oh
that's-
shit,
Yes.
that's right. I forgot about
Yeah.
Doctor Strangelove. Yeah, that's
Yes.
another great one.
And
he
then
did.
Paths of Glory. He's
Paths
my
of Glory.
favorite director, so I love all of his
Yeah,
shit.
yeah, he's
so.
great, man.
Yeah.
Did you like Lolita?
No, I didn't like that one.
I
That's
never
the
saw
only one I
Lolita.
never really
I
liked.
Which
remember.
Lolita?
I remember when Amy Fisher was.
Yeah, the Long Island.
They kept calling her the Long Island Lolita. I'm like, I don't understand what that means. I don't know what they're talking.
That's when I went back and watched it. Lolita,
Really? I gotta
yeah, and
figure
I'm
out
like,
what
this
this is
movie
going-
kind of isn't good.
Did he do the one like in the 50s or the one in like
No, it
the
wasn't the
90s?
50s.
No, I think that was in the
60s
60s.
or something
Yeah.
like that.
60s.
It was
Yeah.
one of. I think it was
The
the
original?
second movie he did. Yeah,
His was
Lolita.
1962. Lolita was 1962. Yeah, followed by Full Metal Jacket. Just kidding.
Yeah, Full
And then
Metal Jacket's
Eyes Wide
88.
Shut.
You didn't know that
Eyes
he
Wide
was in,
Shut.
you didn't know he did that.
That was his last
did not
movie.
And I've never
that,
seen
no.
that. I've never seen Eyes Wide Shut.
It's worth a watch.
And he died making it, right?
Yeah,
I
he
think,
pretty much did it all, and they
Is that
put
the-
it together.
I think right after he died, right before its release.
Yeah,
Is that? Did,
it was pretty much done.
Did Spielberg finish
Eyes
that
Wide
one for
Shut.
him or something? Was that
That's
that?
the,
Is
Tom
that
Cruise
one?
right?
Yeah,
Am I
it's
misremembering
a
something
slow
there?
I
drama,
think it was
but
done.
it's
I
very
haven't
interesting.
seen
I-
that.
I'm not sure that would be something I have to look up when we watch Eyes Wide Shut for the podcast,
Did
I want to be in on
which is
that.
I think not until
We'll be six. I'll
it'll
be 69.
2039. We do that, we do that one in 2039.
Yeah, that came out in what, 1999? I think. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's when it done. Yeah.
Well, let's hope we make it there.
Yeah.
We could also do the Matrix and Phantom Menace that year too. So
Oh yeah.
Okay.
that'll be a good and bad year for
I'm looking
movies.
forward to it. My first time watching The Matrix.
We'll be in our
Depends.
We'll be in
First time
our.
watching.
Well, I was going to say our Nevada compound, but also depends.
Yeah.
We'll be in both of those things at that time.
But I'm excited. That'll be my first time watching The Matrix.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Any of them?
I haven't watched any of them. Yeah.
Wow.
Only the
there's-
first one is
There's
worth
movies you haven't seen.
Oh, there's a
You know,
lot of movies I haven't seen. Yeah. Titanic's on there.
Yeah. Well, you can skip that.
Forrest Gump's on there, which I will continue to fight anybody about that movie because that movie's garbage.
I love that.
You
movie.
didn't see it. How do you know
Jenny.
it's garbage, but I agree. It is garbage. And
No.
Titanic's a good movie. I like Titanic.
I just never saw it.
Yeah.
There was no real reason.
But I'm saying,
Yeah.
Forrest Gump's a piece of shit.
Oh,
But a
Forrest
lot
Gump
of
is
great
great.
lines have come out of it.
Forrest Gump is a piece of shit movie.
No, not
Jenny.
from the perspective of the cuck that he is, because Jenny gets molested when she's a child, and then she
I never
keeps
seen the movie,
using
but-
him and getting fucked by every dude
So how's that make it a
around the
good, how does
country.
that make it a good movie?
Well, because it's so fucked up, and then he's just, I just love Jenny. We're like peas and carrots, you know. And she keeps coming back, and then she
still
comes
haven't
back.
proven- I still don't
They
get why
have
that
sex
makes it a good
once,
movie.
and she comes back with her kid, and she's sick with HIV. Back then, they
that-
didn't know what it was.
Is it me or is he sounding? Is he against the movie? I'm not sure because it sounds like he's against the movie.
No,
now.
I love the
He's just
movie
against
because
Jenny. Which,
yeah.
which
Well,
is-
it's just such a degenerate movie from if you see it
Sounds
for
like
the way
garbage.
I see it, you know.
sounds like garbage.
Jenny
yeah.
was a bitch.
Yeah, but then she dumped
sure
her
she was.
Right,
she
so.
dumped her illegitimate child on him and said it's yours. Totally cucked. You know, and he believed it because he's a fucking dumbass.
And it was
you know,
that
'cause
dopey
he's-
kid from The Sixth Sense.
Yeah, it was before The Sixth Sense. Yeah. All right, we're a
Sounds
little
like
off topic,
garbage.
but
If you could cut that out of the podcast because
I'll leave it in.
it's garbage. I'm on record now. I'll never watch that movie. It's
What,
garbage.
Forrest Gump?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Andy says it's garbage.
Oh, I did not like it.
It's got great lines.
Sorry, I ruined your Black
What-
Panther party.
Forrest, run.
What's a great line?
Party.
Sorry, I ruined your
Chocolates?
Black Panther party.
I was going to say life is like a box of chocolates, I guess. I don't know.
There's so many good ones. in
Run,
there.
Forrest,
Yeah,
run.
those lines sound great. I'm cracking up.
It's a
over
good
here.
comedy.
In the future, a sadistic gang leader is imprisoned and volunteers for a conduct aversion experiment, but it doesn't go as planned.
And that future was 1980.
Did they say that? I was wondering if they ever said what
I thought it
year
was in the book. Yeah.
Oh, maybe from the book.
I think
Okay.
so.
I was wondering what year it was
Yeah.
too.
It's always fun to see a.
Yeah, I've always wondered, and I finally found out.
It's always fun to see a movie in the future from 30 years in the past.
yeah,
30 years? Is that 40
42.
years now? Fuck. man.
like
19
2001, A Space
1980s,
Odyssey.
43 years ago, yeah.
God damn it, man. Really? Is 1980 that long?
1980s, 43 years
Yeah,
ago.
good God.
I stand at 30. Like,
And then I
30
was
years
wondering
ago.
the age of Alex. the
Well, that
star
is
in that.
because
and that's 15 years old.
it's so funny
Yeah.
because
He's
as I'm
15 in
watching
the
it-
book, but
Yeah.
in the movie he's 17.
Okay.
They changed his age. I
for-
read that.
it's
But
been
as
a-
an actor, you could tell he's in his
As an
20s.
actor,
Is he
27.
30?
He's
Okay,
27 years old as an actor.
Yeah, and he looks it.
This is like the first time I've watched this movie with like critical eyes, and as they're
Yeah.
talking about him going to school, I'm like, school?
Yeah.
Is this guy like 30? Like, should he be getting
Yeah.
a job?
Uh,
It was
The book, he's 15. He's supposed to be 17 in the movie, but he's 27 in real life.
okay. Malcolm McDowell was
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I'm a little bit sick in the Gulliver.
Oh God,
Protagonist
Gulliver. I had to look that up. I'm like, what the hell's a Gulliver?
Protagonist
The Gulliver's
Alex
Travel.
Delarge is an ultra-violent youth in futuristic Britain. As with all luck, his eventually runs out and he's arrested and convicted of murder. While in prison, Alex learns of an experimental program in which convicts are programmed to detest violence. If he goes through the program, his sentence will be reduced and he will be back on the streets sooner than expected. But Alex's ordeals are far from over once he hits the streets of Britain.
Oh, that was a perfect placement.
I was hoping for a clap. It would have been like,
You nailed it, Brian, the first time.
Within like 2 minutes of this movie, it was one of those funny things where when they were just showing his face
In
close
ecstasy.
up, and he's just kind of like looking at the camera. I'm like, I guess Stanley Kubrick's got a thing because it looked like Jack in The Shining, and it looked like Gomer Pyle in Full Metal Jacket. I'm like, they just do that like slightly overhead,
psychotic
down,
smile
looking
look.
up. I'm like, damn, he does that in every movie. That's crazy.
and it
such
works.
It really does.
It does set the tone.
And the way it opens to the Beethoven synthetic music. Yeah, it's just terrific.
and
You know,
it's
being
just,
that-
just his room was awesome, by the way, the way he had that wall of records and just the
One of the things
And the girl with her legs spread, the vagina.
when he had the threesome.
Yeah, well,
Oh,
they
that
show
is
they
insane.
show the painting. It's just a drawing of a woman with her legs.
No, but when,
spread.
in his room when he
Yeah.
had the threesome, when he had the girls, he just kept going. It was just he'd be looking at albums, put an album on, and
They'd
he'd
get dressed.
roll around
And then he would take their clothes off and then do them again.
I have the
Yeah.
William Tell sex scene is hilarious.
Yeah.
I said both girls get undressed twice. One gets up, gets dressed, he grabs her,
And
drives
does
back
her
to bed,
again.
and then the other one's up there getting dressed.
Yeah.
But it's almost Benny Hill like too.
Yeah.
I have in my notes, half the time I thought this was a Monty Python movie.
No shit. My son said that today. He goes, I can't help but think this is like a Monty Python. skit."
Especially the
one guard.
warden at the prison, like
Yes.
with his like
Sounded
whole
like John
Heil
Cleese.
Hitler! And
Oh,
it's like,
yeah.
is that John Cleese
Yeah.
that's doing this?
Just the overacting.
Oh,
he's like when he's
God.
like one pencil.
You will say, sir.
You are over the line.
And then when he's, of course, on his knees looking up his ass with the flashlight in his mouth, no gloves on.
And then asking him questions.
Yeah,
I was like, I can see John Cleese doing this.
He has about crabs during that scene. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any crabs? My nose is right up against your rectum. I might want to know that now.
Let's talk about the cast.
Oh, yeah, the cast. This
We'll
is
start
one of those
off with
movies
our
that, like,
first, what you already
this
brought
movie
him
is
up, Malcolm
so
McDowell.
old and so British.
How
that,
old is
well,
it?
it's 52 years old now, but like
52.
it's so old and so British that like most of these people are obviously dead now, and I didn't know a lot of them. Like it's a lot of fun when we do these movies and we're like, oh, there's the guy from The Thing, and there's the guy from The Thing, and it's not a lot of that in this movie. Although there are two guys from The Thing in this, not the movie The Thing, just The Thing.
Well, Malcolm McDowell's in it. We could talk about his top four, which Clockwork is in his top four. Do you have any other?
Caligula.
No, but that should have.
That's
been.
in my top
I
four.
thought that would have made it. In
I'm
his
just
top
going to
four.
fix your mic real quick.
Oh my God, what's wrong with this mic? Is he smashing it around?
You're migrating from it.
Can I
How about
put it up here a little bit? Is that good?
That's good.
You're good.
he was Loomis in those Rob Zombie Halloweens? Is that any of his top
That
four?
made it in there. Halloween 2007. I had
Okay.
that here. It was that.
Yeah,
one.
he's
Yep.
Dr. Loomis.
Was he in like
movies.
one of the Fright Nights or
That's the only
something like
Halloween that he was in. But he was also in Time After Time.
Oh, I know that flick.
Is that the Christopher Reeve time travel movie, or am I missing that up?
No, where he
something
comes
I don't
back
remember
from
what it was.
I don't know that.
How about Star Trek Generations?
That's his other one. Yeah.
Oh,
Star
okay,
Trek
yeah,
Generations.
he's fuck the bad guy in that. He's the one that
I bet you Tony would have got
Picard
this.
and Kirk have to fight him.
Tony, would you have gotten this one? I'm just wondering if you listen. If you listen to the podcast.
It's like
Well, I don't know the name of the movie, but there was one that he was in prior
he got it,
to
Star Trek Generations.
Clockwork Orange.
That was it.
Oh,
You got 'em all.
before.
Yeah,
Oh, what was that?
Before Clockwork Orange, that Stanley Kubrick saw him in and said he's perfect for this role.
Oh,
But I
okay.
forgot the name of the movie.
I think I know what movie. I forget what it is as well.
I'm going to yell at you now. You can't bring that kind of information here and not know the answer.
I know.
You can't say he was in a thing, but
Don't ask about
can't
video
speculate.
games, right?
exactly. That's exactly what I'm going for. You can't say, what was that video game game back there. Yeah, exactly. Don't bring it up if you don't know the answer.
It took us forever to figure it out.
Audience, please tell us the
What was
answer.
it? Centipede?
Centipede, yeah.
Okay.
Human
Human
centipede.
Did he do Infinity commercials, or was that someone else?
I think he did do commercials. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if it was necessarily. I don't
He's
know.
also one of those guys that I'm sure his voices and everything. I think he's Ratatouille maybe, and
Oh,
like he's got one of those distinctive old man British
Ian,
voices
I could
now.
swear he was in a lot more movies than
Yeah,
I can
he
recall.
definitely is
back
one of
in
those
the day.
guys that
I think it was the movie If.
It might be. I think.
Oh,
he-
is that the one that Kubrick saw him in?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Who else from this movie is anybody that you have in your cast?
I had David Prowse.
David Prowse, Darth Vader.
I brought that up to Connor, and I said, "Do you recognize him?" I
Yeah,
said,
no
he was
one
in
would
3
recognize
movies
him.
that I know you watched. You only saw his face in one of them.
But you didn't see his face in that.
Yeah, with some potato face.
Oh yeah,
They put an old man in the suit when
That
they
was terrible.
Is that what
unmasked
they
him and-
did?
It was Sebastian.
that wasn't Prowse?
Shaw
No.
was in Return of the Jedi.
No.
that's a
And
rip-off.
that was his top 4
fat-headed
too.
guy.
David
It was
Prowse's top 4
terrible.
was his 3 Star Wars movies and A Clockwork.
That's awesome though, because Mark Hamill's top 4 were all Star Wars movies. So, you know,
Yeah, that's all he's done
Good
besides
for-
Corvette Summer.
but that's okay. Dave Prowse at least has Clockwork Orange.
Mark Hamill's done a lot, dude.
yeah, well, voice stuff
Voice-wise,
and shit.
That's what I'm saying.
yeah.
But if you look at Mark Hamill, he does a lot of like onesie twosie episodes. Of a lot of
Onesie
shows.
twosie, upsie daisy.
Yeah, he's got. So he's one of those actors where he's like Big Bang. He did an episode. You know, he's in an episode of Mad About You, or he's in an episode like just.
He
I don't know
just
if it's
pops
Mad About
in.
You. I was just doing that, randomly.
Gets
On
a
all that
paycheck.
stuff. Yep.
Yeah, but Dave Prowse looked good with his big
Dave Prowse
muscly
does.
arms
Yeah.
all sticking out.
Yeah. Connor made that comment that
He was fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he was carrying
Strong.
the guy downstairs with, in the wheelchair.
in a wheelchair. Yeah.
Good
There's no problem.
evening.
Did he?
Do you have notes about that, Jay? Jay, do you have
What,
notes
good
about
evening?
him carrying the guy down the steps at all?
Not really.
Well, I read that he said to Stanley, "I hear you're called one cut Kubrick or something like that, or one take Kubrick
Yes.
or something like that," and he didn't want to have to carry this guy down the steps
100 times.
100 times. So he's like, "Can we do this in like one take?" And they did it in 6 takes, and that was like the least amount of takes that were done on any shot in this movie because Dave Prowse was like, "I can't keep carrying this guy down the stairs in the wheelchair."
Fine, it's a workout. Man.
We could talk about.
Get swole.
We could
Get
talk
small.
about how annoying Alex's parents were too. Like they were just so.
Oh.
Well, I love how she was wearing the blue
I'm sorry,
hair.
That was so the
M&P.
wigs of the
M&P.
wigs of the old ladies in this because his psychiatrist in the hospital had a purple wig.
Yeah,
blue
Mom
hair.
had a
but talk about
purple
the
wig.
future.
Yeah, it's
Today
the
is the
future.
future, and
But-
everyone has pink and blue hair
But
and
they
shit.
weren't. They were
Yeah.
just shitty Halloween wigs.
Yeah.
and also his
You
dad.
can see their other hair underneath.
His the P and the M&P. His dad was
Pa.
Grady from Shining.
Oh,
He was-
wow.
yeah, and he was also in. Fuck. He was also a British. Ah man, fuck.
Oh man,
Sorry.
fuck! I don't remember that one.
Cut.
Remember that one?
Anyway, he was the guy
It's a
in
porno.
He was the guy in The Shining that gave Jack the idea to hack up his family,
Oh, that's
That's a
right.
good idea.
and he was
I mean, wait.
also he was
Oh, yeah,
also
yeah.
He was in the ballroom. He was one of the
Yeah.
ghosts.
he was the one.
Yeah.
He was the one in the bathroom when he went. When
yeah,
Jack went
yeah.
to the bathroom. And he's
How
like,
about that?
He's like,
He wasn't
your
the one in
family,
the tub, though.
Your family is giving you trouble or whatever it was. Whatever.
He wasn't the one that got out of the tub, right? The
No,
lady
no,
with
no,
the-
no. But he was a British officer and something else. Now I got to look it up. I'm sorry. I hate looking shit up during this podcast. Talk amongst yourselves.
I'm gonna let
How
it- I'm
about
gonna
what A
hang out there.
Clockwork Orange stood for?
What does it stand for?
I
Well-
think I might know that one.
Okay.
Is it as queer as a Clockwork Orange?
I'm
What's
not
that
sure.
saying? The old Cockney saying.
Well, yeah, actually, from what I heard is that the author first heard it used in
Anthony Burgess.
Yes, thank you. Back in World War II, he was at a pub and he heard the term used, and it meant like the orange was organic and that the clockwork was a choice between good or evil. It's a mechanism inside the organic orange, to decide between good and evil. And in this
I never
movie,
heard
it's
that,
kind of
yeah.
like it was rewound, to be for good. So,
British people are so smart, man, because that makes no sense to me. That's great.
And I had to know that because the name of the movie is just so wacky.
It is. It's one of those things that I've never looked up.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it's just Clockwork Orange. What's that mean? I don't know. It's whatever the name of the movie is. The Pa who was Grady in Shining was also one of the colonels in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
How about Mr.
I had to look it up.
Deltoid? Was he anybody?
Mr. Deltoid? No, he was great though, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I liked him.
When he's lying down on the bed with him and he's just
Yeah.
like grabbing his dick and has his hand around him, like, what kind of truant officer?
It looks like Malcolm McDowell was trying not to laugh.
Yeah.
But Mr. Deltoid, the way he talked too, Mr.
But it was like a
Deltoid
nervous kind of
Yeah,
laugh.
exactly.
Had to love the way Mr. Deltoid talked, though. It was just like,
Yeah, he had that inflection.
yeah, it was like, you did this.
You really failed me
and you're
now.
gonna do this is that what you're gonna do, Alex? I don't think that's what you're gonna do.
You're convicted of murder.
His apartment, his
He's like,
whole
where he was
lived.
okay.
That place looks so British. Like there's like an idea in my mind of like a British apartment looks like, and that's it.
I wanted
And it's
an
probably
apartment.
Well,
like
it's probably
that so
like that
bad.
place and Monty Python, Benny Hill, and anything of that era that I watched, and it's like almost normal looking, but not quite normal looking. Like that wouldn't be if you walked into that place in America, you'd be like, what the hell is this place going on?
With the
Like,
H?
what?
Well, Mr. Deltoid, I thought that was kind of quirky how they stuck it in the movie where he's drinking out of the cup that had her dentures in it. And he took
That's
a
why he
couple
got
sips.
sick. No, he got sick at the end. He didn't realize. it.
Yeah, and then he's like,
like,
"Ugh." After that, I'm like, that's kind of,
I thought he was a baller at first, and then when he realized what he was doing, it
Yeah.
was just he got sick, and I was like, oh,
That's good. Yeah, kind of like humanized him. Yeah.
He went right. He went right for what he wanted too. He went right for that beast.
And why
dude.
did the cops need him when they were interrogating him? When
Because he was like as you said, the truant officer.
Yeah,
he
so
was
why
like
would
his,
they even care-
his parole officer because the way he was talking to him when he grabbed his dick was that he was
Also, he
already
shows
in
the
jail
top-
before.
yeah, he got in trouble before.
Yeah.
He does show part of his dick too.
when he's stripped naked in the, in
Oh,
the
yeah.
jail,
Yeah.
when they look up his bum, oh yeah,
up his
you
bum.
see his bush and top of his
So
dick.
you're
for
talking
sure.
the jargon.
I remember that.
Pretty well. Yeah.
Brian does
Did you
remember
have your
that part.
hand on your Johnson at that time?
No, Connor was in the room.
Oh, okay. We wouldn't want to do that. By the way, that police scene that when he is having to, my name is, what's your crime? What's your sentence? I'm like, I would have been like, my sentence is,
Murder.
well, he's like, what are you in here for? Murder. What's your sentence? 2 weeks? I'm like, I don't know. Like, will they just believe whatever I say? And taking your stuff out of your pocket, they probably should have done that before he went to prison.
Right. Right.
Here's my switchblade and here's my gun.
Yeah.
Just pulling stuff out of
It's like, why even bring it to the prison? The chocolate and the cigarettes are contraband. You will not be getting these back after 14
It's
years.
half a chocolate bar. Like, is that going to be good? in
Have
14
eaten chocolate bar.
One pen red, one pen black,
And let's talk about the murder he committed.
with the big giant penis. There was no
Murder by
blood.
penis.
There was no blood on that thing after he smashed
No,
her
that's
face.
why I
in.
thought she might have still been alive.
I was like, maybe
but-
he didn't kill her. I saw this movie.
You know what it was? It was probably internal
so
injury.
long
That's what I
ago
think.
that-
He whacked her in the face, probably cracked her skull, and
But it was
she died.
also internal injuries because if he fucked her up in the stomach and chest,
Oh,
he could
maybe
have,
no-
done some
no-
damage
nothing
there, you
coming
know?
out?
Yeah.
This is I watched Clockwork Orange in high school, and then I watched it like 10 years ago. So I've seen it a couple times, and then tonight.
I did Hogs of the Road back in high school, and then I saw the movie, and I'm like, hey, that's me. With Bob Kellenberger and my buddies.
Yeah,
and
of
stuff.
course.
Yeah. So, but I was all high on LSD,
That's
driving
a good
around
time.
like that. No different from them, high on the synth.
That was one of
yeah.
my favorite, like them driving with that, like at super high speeds
Yeah,
and the
stolen
car's zeroing
car.
off, like, and it's obviously they're in front of
A screen.
projector, but like it looks so fun. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my god, that's they're driving around,
And I'm laughing through all that of the
No.
movie. So,
and of course, any
yeah.
British person that's driving, I'm like, you're on the wrong side of the car. What are you doing? Flipping around.
We're going to talk.
Going under the truck too. That was a little.
Very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
I know we touched on this a little bit. The milk bar.
Yeah, because that's
I got here.
when I think of the future, I think of milk bars.
I got here. It
like
said.
that's where we'll be.
If
in
it's got
20
drugs
years.
in it,
I'll tell you what.
I'm
If
there.
it's like this, it says a gang of 4 teenage boys drink milk plus,
Yep.
Plus.
which is said to be milk laced with drugs such as LSD, mescaline, or
Yep.
amphetamines. Drugs are not shown on the screen though. But if
Yeah, they never showed.
if there's a
drugs,
bar with
except when they
milk
were.
plus in the future, that sounds like a fun time.
Yeah.
The only time they actually showed drugs was when he was like what's that there? Is that going to put me to sleep or whatever it was that they were giving him when he was
Yeah.
in
It's,
prison?
yeah, it's like vitamins.
Oh yeah, vitamins. I love vitamins. By the way, one of my best memories of The Simpsons is when Bart is Alex
Yes.
on one of the Halloween.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was
He
one of the
comes walking
first
in-
ones.
Yeah, and
wasn't
he
it?
has
Yeah.
the big eyelash, and I was like, man, I'm like,
That's a great looking Bart.
and it's
And
a
we
great
need him
looking
down
Bart.
here.
It's a great looking Bart, and like at that point, that was like the early '90s.
Look
Yes.
that up on Etsy.
I bet like 10% of the people watching that episode at the time were like, "Oh yeah, I know who Bart's supposed to be," because I remember I knew who he was supposed to be.
But that
I
movie
bet most
was,
people
was banned for like 30 years.
but
Yeah.
not in America.
Not in
It
America,
wasn't
I
like
don't
we
think
saw
so,
it. Like
yeah.
I saw
I
it in high
did.
school, and
I saw
I think
it in
in
high school.
England
Me
it might
too.
have been banned,
Yeah.
but
Why was it banned?
because
they-
ultra violent.
It was originally rated X too.
And they thought that people were a copycat. Copycatting it, and so they
Like
banned
right
it.
after the movie came out, there was like a
couldn't
It's kind of
rave
like
and
remember,
stuff like that.
remember
that-
Catcher in the Rye? That was banned for so many years. We all read the book, I think, in high school, and I'm like, this is a fucking nothing burger.
Yeah.
You know,
just like Butters said that, and then Butters killed Kim Kardashian because the book told him to on South Park. There's a great
There you
South
go.
Park Catcher in the Rye episode.
You know what I like in the message in the movie was the thuggery in there. How you have the droogs, they were the thugs, and,
how
then the state was the thugs too, and then how
They were
the,
worse thugs.
How the two former droogs became police officers, so they were still thugs, but they were thugs for the state.
That also goes back to my theory
Okay.
of any asshole kid in school
Becomes a cop.
Yeah, yeah,
And they
yeah.
became cops quick because that was 2
Yeah.
years that they became
Right.
cops. Like, wow, these guys were just like doing some ultra violent.
And you
Yeah,
could
a
tell
couple
they
years
loved
ago.
They
it.
still had their violent streaks
They
in
did.
them
Yeah.
because of what
And they had that
did.
spot where the
Rolled
tub
out.
was.
Yeah, they knew
You know,
about. They
they
taking
kept
other
taking-
people
they
there.
knew.
You know?
Yeah. Drag him through the
Well,
woods.
the
They
guy
knew where
who
they were
was in the
going.
wheelchair said, "Oh yeah, the cops, they take people out in the woods nearby, and they show up at my house."
Yeah,
Someone ran a pipe out to that thing too because it had a spigot.
yeah, that's right.
And I'd also like to admit to, I know you guys love to make fun of my grammar
Make fun of
and
you all
my
the time,
things
yeah.
but I didn't know there was a difference between ultra violent and ultraviolet till like honestly, like I was way, way into my adult years because I had heard ultra violent when I was young, and then someone's like,
that's ultraviolet light.
someone's under ultraviolet light. I'm like, yeah, that is super violent
Yeah,
light.
they're
Like,
really
it's all
getting killed.
black and purple looking. Like, and then like one day I saw it written. I'm like, oh, that's violet, like the color. I'm like, oh, I'm like, I liked it more than it was just ultraviolet
You know what?
light. And I still, when I read it now to this day,
What a
I
dummy.
read it. I know, but I read it as ultraviolet light now. When I read
it was extra radioactive, right?
when I read it now, I'm
like
like,
dropping
that's
Eves over
ultraviolet
here,
light. I know. I'm not dropping Eves. I'm dropping ultraviolet light.
That's good.
Ah man, that you admitted it. Like you didn't even have to tell us that. You know?
Well, I wanted to because when I heard them talking about ultraviolet, I'm like, man, this reminds me of like when I figured out that there was a difference between
That's
ultraviolet and ultraviolet light. I just figured it was like because of the intensity of the light, it was ultraviolet light. I don't know.
I like it.
It was really aggressive.
I like it. I like it, but you're,
Very aggressive
you're
light.
seriously dumb.
Well, I'm not well read. I watch movies. I don't
Ah
read.
man, come on, you're fun.
I read a book today.
Wow.
What did you read today?
Killing the Killers by Bill O'Reilly. We didn't get them all yet because the book ends with ... because we're still going after them.
Because he has to write another book.
Well, he's talking about the terrorists.
What did you think of Basil or Basil?
Was that the snake?
Yes.
Yeah, I was a big fan because I had a boa constrictor when I was his age also.
And he kept
I
it
read
in
it
his
too. This is something I read.
kept
on,
it in his drawer.
Yeah,
About
I didn't keep it in a drawer. That was terrible.
The snake Basil was introduced into the film by Stanley Kubrick when he found out Malcolm McDowell had a fear of reptiles.
Really?
The stated purpose was
So he didn't know he was going to open that drawer. There was going to be a snake in
The
there.
stated
It's
purpose was
fucked
to
up.
make McDowell's character seem more intimidating, but secondarily it functioned as a practical joke by Kubrick.
Really? I thought, and meanwhile, I'm thinking
And-
it had more significance that it was representative of the serpent. You know?
Going back to what you were talking about, the picture
bad-
of the woman on the wall with
Yeah.
her legs spread, because
Yes.
the snake was just like
trying to
poking
poke her.
and stuff like that. I
Yeah,
was like,
well, there was a
wow,
lot of
like, this is
symbolism.
very subtle. Like, the snake
that's
just
why-
poke her in the crotch.
That's like when you watch those old cartoons, even do it with the train going into the
tunnel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, with the snake again, the snake was around when he was bad. and then the snake died when he came out and was reformed and good. You know,
And
so
you know what they said when he went to prison? I thought they said his dad died while he was in prison. Like they're saying all sorts of British words, like your father took the train to the and then
Probably
they
said
died. And
something-
I'm like,
it's probably something like
is
his dad was watching
dead? And
TV.
then- that's exactly what it probably meant. But when he got back to his apartment, that kid was living in his room,
Joe?
and he put his arm around the mom.
Yeah.
He just put his arm around the mom. I was like, oh, the dad's still alive.
he's like,
Joe,
I'm the
dude.
son that they should have had.
wow.
I treat them better than all the.
We talked about how all the unused footage was cut. The original cut for this movie was 4 hours.
Oh damn!
He had a 4
You know
hour
what,
film.
man?
So they had like a full second movie.
I hate the fact that they destroy this because, like, we were talking about that with Young Frankenstein the other day. There was like a 4-hour Young Frankenstein. I don't
Which I
want to
would love
watch.
to see.
I don't want to watch it all
Yeah.
the time, but I want to watch it one time.
Yes.
I want to watch the uncut.
One time, that would be worth
all
it.
the material. Just I want to
I
see
agree.
it and then be like,
You know, it's like
oh
just-
yeah, that needed to get cut.
Just
out.
imagine
Good cut.
if Led Zeppelin didn't save all the stuff that didn't make it on the albums. Like, hey, what can I do?
yeah, right.
You know, some classic songs.
There are things that
Well, Traveling Riverside Blues.
Yeah, I love
was
that
never
one.
even on-
I
That was
love
never on
that.
any album. So
Isn't the original 2001, or there's a version of 2001 that is hours long because he keeps showing footage of like the progression.
That's
to
a
the
good question.
space
I'm not
age.
sure.
It was already long,
Did anybody?
but I would want to see that version because that's my favorite movie.
Did anybody see the 2001 Space Odyssey album in the movie?
yes,
Yes.
at the record store.
Yes,
By
he
the way,
dropped it there,
that-
right in the center.
That record store
Yeah.
was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
As soon as he walked in there, I'm like, why don't they have one of these like as a
That-
pop-up
yes.
store in,
And I
in
love the
Columbus,
one-
New Jersey? Because I want to go to that.
And the one girl's
That would be so much
popsicle
fun,
was
yes.
drooping.
he just licks it. He just licks her popsicle. He's like, "What you got going on there?" He's like,
Oh, and Jason, you would probably know this, but when I was looking into it, is they said in the book that he raped them, took them
"Oh,
to
they were
his
very willing
Yeah.
apartment.
participants."
But Stanley was like, "We need to water this down a little
He
bit."
did. I think they did.
in the
I mean,
movie.
I think that was one of the things that to bring it back from X rating. It was one of the.
Oh,
things that might have been-
okay.
It is
Oh, wow.
It is
Okay.
just so, that scene right there, that William Tell overture, like that. I feel like I've seen that 100 times where they play that song and they play something in a movie
That's
where
sped
it's
up.
super sped up, but Clockwork Orange did it first. That's the first time that ever happened.
Yeah.
And you know that Clockwork Orange redefined singing in the rain.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh,
Gene Kelly,
did-
like, yeah, he was pissed
He
at
met
this.
Malcolm McDowell and he snubbed him because of.
well,
how-
Malcolm McDowell did that as an improv, from what I saw. Yeah, you
that
know,
was the
is
only
he-
song that he knew the lyrics to. He said, or something. like
Okay,
that.
yeah, and he was singing it to but
yeah,
it's
Gene
so,
Kelly never liked it, and
No shit.
I can understand why he had a problem with it.
Did
but
Gene
Yeah.
Kelly even write that? I mean, I know he danced to it,
I don't
but
know if he
like,
wrote it
was
or
that
not.
his song?
Might have been in Irving Berlin. Who knows?
I don't know. This
That's what he was famous for.
Yeah,
though.
for sure.
Well,
But
now it's famous for a rape song.
the music in this movie, by the way, was it's. If this had been made like 5 years later, it would have been all punk music. This would have been a punk rock kind. It would have been Sex Pistols and the Ramones. and
Stanley
stuff like
Kubrick
that, but
was
like-
all about classical music.
I know, but like
2001.
just the future, and there's all these young guys being into Ludwig von, like,
But
like
it-
no normal kid is into like
No,
classical
it
music.
fits in the movie because that's his only real tie to humanity, is the music. And then the music is twisted because coincidentally they used it in
Oh, that was great. That
Yeah.
they used it for reprogramming, and
yeah,
then
and
now
it
we
was an
can't listen to
accident,
that.
and it totally ruined
Fucked him
him.
up on
and
the
it
ninth. The
yeah,
ninth, man. You can't listen to the ninth.
but he
ever again.
rebounded from that because he ended out on top.
guess.
and
If
his
you could
new
be-
his new droogs. You notice how he said hello, my
Yes,
new droogs.
when the three of them walked in,
It was the government, so now they were his new droogs, and he was going to be well off for the rest of his life. I love that.
But he was still all bashed apart at the end. I don't know if
Yeah.
his. I would like to know what the good ending of the book was, because
Well,
is he
Jason
gonna-
knows, and I know
I
because
don't think there's that much of a difference. I
I
mean,
don't know, because apparently like they dropped the positive ending of the book.
yeah, the positive ending is that he ran into not Dim or the other guy
Georgie.
or Georgie. It was the other.
Oh, the one that
One.
was kind of like the
Peter,
one
I
that was.
think it
Yeah,
was.
Peter was the non-confrontational
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
He went back into his old ways, and he had a new gang. And that he ran into Peter, and Peter was normal. Peter was like, I moved on with my life. And then he decided, and that's the whole free will part of it, is that he said, I think I want to settle down and grow up and finally move on. And that's how it ended.
I think Stanley's ending was a lot better.
Yeah, and that was the American
Yeah.
ending for the
So-
book that was in America, right?
Which is weird.
Yeah.
Because America at
Yeah.
that time would have had a have a seditious ending. You would have thought they would have had the ending that everything turned out fine at the end.
Yeah, you would think so.
That's
but-
because everything had to be happy endings back then, right?
You would have
Yeah.
thought, right?
Yeah,
Like,
but
they
it's
didn't,
Stanley
so.
Kubrick, so
But I mean, the book, even the book was the American version of the book. Like the American version of the book is not the happy ending, right?
right. It's it leaves it open, for interpretation, like it did in the movie.
Yeah, the movie.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's a happy ending for him because he's still in a complete body cast.
Yeah, but he's going to be okay.
I don't know.
It's
I
all
mean,
politics.
Do you know
now,
we're going to be okay,
so-
though, really?
I mean,
though?
was he
Not
ever getting out of
necessarily,
that
no.
hospital? I don't know. He looked fucked up.
It said here, Malcolm McDowell delighted in the speeded up orgy scene since Stanley Kubrick could not shout cut until it was over, and McDowell could accordingly do whatever he wanted during the take.
Yeah, so that's obviously one take, right? 'Cause
Carrying the
it's-
girls back to the bed a second time was improvised by McDowell,
I'm sure it was.
Nice.
Wouldn't you do the same?
much to the irritation of Kubrick, who shouted off camera, "That's enough, Malcolm, that's enough."
I think that set him up for Caligula. Gucci Owen probably said you're perfect for Caligula.
The final scene was done after 74 takes.
74?
74 takes.
when he's in the body cast in the hospital and stuff like that.
the
74
final
days.
scene, it says. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, how?
Stanley Kubrick is a perfectionist. Everything needs to be in scene perfectly placed and done exactly the way he demands it to be.
Oh, so when someone said, "I hear your one take," that was a slam
mocking.
against.
yeah, it was. Yeah.
Like that scene of Jack walking up the stairs with Shelley Duvall with the bat, like took like 4 days or something like that to film, just over and over again of him
That's why
walking
Shelley Duvall
up.
looks fucking like
A disaster because she couldn't probably
she was
sleep
a
for
mess
4 days.
afterwards. Yeah.
But yeah, that just kept getting filmed over and over and over and over again.
Damn.
Which is, I don't know, man. There's perfectionism, and that is too much, I think.
Yeah, that's that artistic, craziness.
Yeah, I think I think you're right. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's not.
But I love it. As a consumer, that I just that's
movie
why
was
he's
a-
my
but there have
favorite
been so many movies.
director.
There have been
He's
so many movies that
insane.
have been done well that they did it in 2 takes. Like, I don't think you need 74 takes. For
Anthony
something.
Burgess originally sold the movie rights to Mick Jagger for $500.
Yeah,
Oh, that's okay.
I heard that. He was
and they
gonna-
were going to do it as the Rolling Stones as the Drooks.
Well, that would have
Yep.
been fun.
And then he got rid of it. And
would Alex have been
yeah,
Mick, and then the rest of the guys
and
would have
then,
been Droogs?
Andy
Ken-
Warhol. did a
Ken Russell
version.
was going to direct, and he was going to get Oliver Reed to star in it.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was with Oliver Reed.
That would have been very fun.
Yeah, Andy Warhol did a version of. He had a different name for it though. Vinyl, I think it was called.
Fuck Andy Warhol.
Of the movie, he did his own version of the movie.
Yeah, of the book. Clockwork
right.
Orange.
So he had.
It was called Vinyl.
Did he
and
not have the rights to it? He just did. His own
I don't
thing,
know.
or-
Yeah, I don't know those details, but I saw parts of it. It was fucking terrible.
No. Okay.
Well, Andy Warhol just stick to fucking paintings, or just
Yeah, paint your Superman.
your collages and shit. Yeah, don't diversify like that Frankenstein movie he did. I mean, it's interesting, but it sucked too.
I was really the music besides like all the Beethoven and stuff like that. They had that like Blade Runner synth music 10 years
I
before
loved
Blade
it,
Runner.
Yeah,
I'm like, man, I'm like,
it's all classic.
I was like, this is Vangelis like 10 years before him.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
I got a couple of things here. When Alex returns home from prison, one of the smaller headlines in the newspaper that is reading
That was
says-
a great headline.
It says
stuff.
Marty Feldman's wife banned.
Get the fuck
No
out
shit,
of here. Marty. I did not see that.
Wow, how
What was she banned from?
how
It says Marty
random.
Feldman's wife banned.
That's awesome.
It's like, I guess, like a joke at their friends or whatever. And then I got, before he would famously go on to portray Darth Vader in the original Star Wars, David Prowse had his first big break being cast in this film. Coincidentally, Mr. James Earl Jones, the voice of Darth Vader, had his first big break in another Stanley Kubrick film as Lieutenant Lothar Zog in Doctor Strangelove.
Wow.
Wait, what?
Or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb.
He's
James Earl
in that?
Jones is in it. Yeah. He doesn't listen to me, does he?
Well, I'm listening to you. I never heard that before.
Well, now you hear
As
it.
a voice or as a person?
As a person. He plays Lieutenant Lothar Zog.
He must have been a child in that.
I love Doctor
That movie
Strange.
is like 70 years old and he's like 90. So he was 20.
That movie's all
kids
about
talk,
Peter
talk.
Sellers.
Oh, God. Such a good
How many
movie,
roles
man.
did he have in that? 3?
Well, he had the doctor, he had the president, and
and the war room guy.
yeah.
There's no fighting
There's
in
no
here.
fighting
This
in
is
the
a war
war
room. Have you seen that, Brian?
Oh,
Have
my
you seen
God.
Doctor Strangelove?
That is a
I don't
classic.
think I ever did.
Yeah,
You
it's
should,
a-
you should
it's-
check that one out.
That's
Yeah.
where the guy rides the bomb.
Yes,
down, right?
yeah.
What's
Slim
his name?
Pickens.
Slim Pickens.
Yeah.
From Blazing Saddles.
Yeah,
That's always
He's
been
like,
on my list of
"Yeehaw!"
movies to watch, but
It's
I
worth
never
it.
watch. Well,
it's worth it for Peter Sellers.
Peter
too.
Sellers, so.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah, so do I.
it's
Love
a
the Pink
comedy,
Panthers.
but
Yeah.
it is a absurd comedy at the height of nuclear tension, and they're just
Yeah.
making fun of it.
Yeah.
Like, eh,
How I Learned to Love the Bomb.
nice. Is he the guy that dropped the bomb? He looks like he's in a pilot.
Oh yeah,
outfit
that's
there.
right. That's right.
James Earl Jones
damn.
and Doctor Strangelove.
Nice.
Also, Brian.
Dead guy.
That's our show right there.
Yeah,
That's the
so-
poster I
yeah, that
put at
was-
our show.
You know what I thought was funny was, or what I want to buy is those dancing Jesuses in his room.
Oh, that was awesome. Yeah. Just like I want the big
Yeah,
giant
the
penis.
crucified-
that I want the big rocking penis.
You know who didn't like these movies or this movie? Siskel and Ebert.
I saw Siskel give it like or Gene gave it a, wait, Roger Ebert gave it a 2 or something.
I'm
like
not
that,
surprised.
Out of 4.
Roger Ebert was appalled by this movie.
Appalled. When they first start the first scene where they're trying to rape that girl, when the heroes, the Droogs, show up to rescue that girl, I guess I was like, these guys. It almost felt like a ballet because I was like, these guys don't know how to rape a girl. They're pulling her limbs. They're just like yanking her back and forth. I was like,
Oh, Billy Boy.
yeah, Billy Boy,
Yeah.
Billy Goat. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like 5 of them, and they're just yanking her
Yeah,
back
it
and
was
forth.
kinda like-
I was like,
It's like
Yeah.
they're fighting
What
over
are they
her, and then they
doing?
finally got her
It's
to the
almost- it's
couch,
almost like it was like
or the
improv dance.
the
It's like
bed,
it felt like a
double
ballet
mattress.
going on.
Yeah,
Interpretive dance they were doing.
Yeah.
even the fight, even that fight that broke out
it was so
between them
choreographed.
was so choreographed. It felt like
Yeah.
a dance, like jumping in the air and smashing the guy in the face in the chair, and he turns around and flips around and smacks him in the head. with
I
it.
got
and they were outnumbered 5-4, and they still won. So
I
Yeah,
got,
without a scratch on them.
Malcolm McDowell claimed that when he told his friend Sir Ian Holm, who we just talked about recently, we had him
he's
on,
Ash
he had
and
him
Bilbo.
on the podcast. Yeah, he that he was going to make a film with Stanley Kubrick, and Holm bitterly replied, "Watch that bastard."
Well, I've never heard anything positive about him, Stanley Kubrick, after making a movie. No one seems to.
They also said that
Enjoy
the cast and
working
crew
with
thought
him.
they were filming a black comedy when they first started filming.
It's rare to see anybody that wants
Well, I
to do
did
another
laugh a
movie
lot
with
in the
him
movie.
again. Oh, this movie is hilarious. It is a very funny movie.
It's very dark. It is to me. It's
find
a
it funny,
dark
Brian?
funny,
humor.
what
Yeah.
the fuck is going
Yes,
on? Kind
yeah,
of
in a
way.
very dark, humorous way.
Did you find it funny, Brian?
I don't know if I found it funny.
Really?
But it was definitely dark humor.
Yeah, like
that'd be-
Mr. Deltoy drinking out of the the denture cup. That was
I mean, Marty Feldman's wife was banned.
And I thought it was funny too that when he was going through his reformation in prison, how he loved the Bible, but he loved the Old Testament, because of all the sex and violence in it too. And he kept dreaming of himself as the Roman guard that was
Whipping the
whipping
guy.
Jesus.
It's pretty bad luck. Everybody that he beat up recognized him.
Yeah, even though he was wearing a penis mask.
Yeah, how do you well, because he was
One guy
singing
said he
in the rain.
recognized
Yeah. That was the
When he got back after, I guess it was before he got arrested
How
the
about
first
his
time.
face when he heard them singing in the rain and he was like,
That was a
Face.
ridiculous.
A very Kubrickian kind of just like focusing on his face as he's like looking up at the bathroom.
and it was just like the most awkward face that nobody would make, that face. if
When
you
he
were
opened his
upset.
drawer, he had a lot of money with the Queen's face on it. I was like, oh, that's good to see that the Queen made it to this whatever future they're in England.
In
And he had that-
1980?
And he had that, and he had that awesome watch collection. I thought of you, Brian, when he opened it.
Oh,
He
yeah.
had like 20 watches in there. I was like, wow. I'm like,
doesn't
Well,
look
he
good.
turned one of those into the prison. Remember?
but he had so many nice watches. I was like, look at all of them. I mean, they're all
Wearing your
stolen
watch
off
today,
people.
Andy?
I did not. I showered before you got here, so I took it off.
We got our watches on. Oh yeah.
They also
My timepieces right here.
they also had mini cassettes as their
Yes,
medium.
I
Yeah,
like
that was a
the
future.
medium of the future was the
I
mini
like
cassette.
the
Yeah.
mini cassette. That
Which
was fun.
I, as a media fan during the media cassette age, they were never the wave of the future.
They never.
Like they were trying to take the place of
only time I
CDs, and
ever
people were like,
used-
"Fuck
Yeah.
those things! Like they suck."
The only time I ever used a mini cassette was like in an answering machine.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
really the only
But
time
those
I ever
weren't even
used
like
one.
the high. Those weren't the HD ones. They sold HD mini cassettes,
Yeah, I know what
like
you're
in the
talking
late
about, yeah.
'90s, 2000s. But CDs were.
I don't
Yeah,
know
nice
anybody-
try.
Yeah, I don't know
You can't
anybody
beat a
that got-
laser
anybody
disc.
that really even bought
MP3s
those.
were out in the early 2000s.
Yeah. So they
That's
just it went from
Yeah.
CDs to MP3s, and those tapes were like, but what about me?
They're like, yeah, you're going with the beta.
You're done.
Max, yeah.
Did anybody have? I'm pretty much through my notes.
Oh well, I have many more notes. So both times when the rape happens with was it Franklin, the family that he raped the girl and put
With
the guy
the
in the
first one?
wheelchair, yeah,
Yes.
and then
Yeah.
the next one where he killed the girl. No one has peepholes or windows. Like no one can see who's outside that door. They're like,
Well, there was the mail slot.
"Hello, who's out there?"
That's right, there was the
Like,
mail
just
slot.
look outside.
And
Yeah,
in
and
an
they have the-
ultraviolet world.
They have the chain on the door.
They have them.
Yeah.
And then he fell into the
It was a
door. basically,
dystopian
when
future.
Prowse-
Oh yeah.
When Prowse opens the door, he basically falls into the door. He was already leaning against the door.
Yeah, in the first one, yeah. And
No,
he
when
kinda-
Prowse opened the door. At the
Oh
end.
yeah. He fell in.
He was already there,
indoors,
yeah.
I also have. He said, "I need that very important work of art. That's the penis that bobs up and down."
We're gonna. Did you find one on Etsy?
I didn't look yet. I need to look. So when they're searching his prison cell, and he keeps seeing the Beethoven things around the room, their exercise yard was just them walking around in a circle.
yeah.
In a circle.
That was weird.
That felt like The Wall. Like right out of
Yeah.
like Pink
Yeah.
Floyd's The Wall. Like as they were walking
They
around in a
tried to get
circle.
Pink Floyd to do the soundtrack.
This seems perfect for that.
Connor
just like,
made a comment
Just like
about
Monty
that.
Python, this felt like Pink Floyd deserved to do the soundtrack. And maybe they couldn't get it, so they just decided to use public domain Beethoven music instead. He would have been like, "Oh no, not Sid the Bee," or whatever he was going to call Sid Barrett.
Oh, did you notice that one of the songs listed, or one of the bands that was listed in the record shop was Heaven 17?
I did not see that. No.
I read that. I didn't.
Who's
I
Heaven? I don't know who
when I
that
read
is.
that.
I when I saw it years ago, I remember seeing that because that's a real band, but they're not very.
Oh,
good.
really?
Oh,
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, it's
kind of music
maybe
are
it's
they?
not notable
That's where they got
because
their name from.
Heaven 17,
Heaven
the
17 got
band
their
might
name
have
there.
took it from
I think they were like a,
you know,
from
of
the movie
Clockwork
or-
Orange because I think they were like an 80s band.
Oh, so they came out after they saw that.
Yeah,
Oh.
I think so.
They were
yeah,
like a hair
so-
metal band, right?
I think so. Yeah, they came out in the 80s from
Yeah.
what I remember.
I don't
So they
remember
might have seen that.
But I know
on-
that's where they got their name from, seeing it in the.
Yeah, probably.
that.
Oh, and I love the pork chops from the interrogator that pushed on his broken nose.
Oh, yeah.
I like this time around. They noticed that like his pork chops ran all the way down, like under his
Oh, yeah,
chin.
they were-
That's
Yeah,
the guy
yeah,
that's from Beverly Hills Cop. And
No shit, really?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
him.
Okay.
He was the bad guy in Beverly Hills Cop. He was the bad guy in
He wasn't Gans,
Rambo Part 2.
not Gans.
He's very, very notable. You would know
You
him.
know him, saw him, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you guys can talk about other things.
Well, I said I was through my notes. Did you have any mental notes or notes that you wanted to bring up, Brian? Anything from Connor? Did he wanted to? What did Connor think of this movie?
I think Connor liked it. He gave it I asked his
Did you
score.
give a score? We have a score
Yeah.
from Connor. Okay, good. We'll get a score from Connor.
And
at
then,
the
but
end.
he made a comment during the exercise scene about when they were walking in a circle. He's like, "That's great exercise."
But he did comment on David Prowse.
Yeah,
his,
20 years later.
Well, he didn't. He didn't.
David Prowse and his
15 years
He
later.
couldn't guess it.
He,
I had to tell him.
Which I don't
No
think
one would
anybody-
know
nobody
that.
would
And even when I said David Prowse, he didn't. He didn't know who David
Yeah,
Prowse
I was
was.
gonna
Yeah. That
Yeah, I
makes
told my
sense.
son that, and he was like, "How would I know that? He was in a suit." I'm like, "You're
no-
right.
no
I
one
said
would
you
know
wouldn't know, but
Unless
that's
you were-
David Prowse."
Unless you were a nerd and didn't out like us.
Yeah.
Yeah, because as soon as I said, I told him, I was like, you know that guy, whatever. And then when I said David Prowse, and he was like, I still don't know who you're talking about.
But then, yeah.
Too many people have played Darth Vader now because it was James Earl Jones. It was Sebastian Shaw played the old man in Jedi, and
And then you got
Hayden Christensen and Jake Lloyd and
yeah, but the man in the suit was almost always David
Prowse in the
right?
first three. Yeah,
Yeah.
still-
but apparently, like
David Prowse thought his voice was going to be used. He didn't know that his voice was being
Poor bastard.
and they called him something insulting like the hayseed.
This is
bad guy or
Loose.
something like
Yeah,
that
I'll
because of
fix
his
that.
strong British accent. They were like, they're not going to use that voice, are they? And of course they did not. They made fun of his accent.
Well, it's like
when,
they barely even used his voice in A Clockwork Orange.
Yeah,
I think he
that is
only
true.
like agreed with the
Yeah.
wheelchair guy,
Right.
like
Yeah.
once on something. Have more wine. yeah,
That was great when his face fell into the spaghetti. They spilled
Yeah.
it on his eyes.
It's like I feel like something very bad is going to happen to me, and then
The spaghetti looked good at first, but then when they put his face up, the sauce didn't look good on his face. I was like,
yeah.
Sauce never
Lost
looks
me.
good on the face. No.
I wanted spaghetti after that.
I was kind of hungry.
When he was eating it, I was like, that
It was a
would be good.
big pile.
That would
yeah,
hit the spot
yeah.
right
That
now.
looks great.
You know, he just got
And with
there.
the wine,
he took
too.
a hot bath. He just took a hot bath, and then the meal was there. That had to be great. It had to be tasting so good. But
I mentioned the guy didn't handle his. He had gloves on when he handled his ass and stuff like that, and when he threw his underwear at him, one pair of white undershorts,
"Get in there for
just
a- he said, "Get in
holding
there."
them.
What, he said, get in there for a bath?
Yeah. And they had to yell everything.
Oh my god, that guy, the warden was hilarious, or whatever.
And
whatever he was.
even Alex like hop stepped along with his captor there. You know, he was
See that
handcuffed
line?
to him.
You don't go past that line. Your toes don't pass that line. British authority sounds so funny all the time because
Can't help
it
but
always
laugh. Like,
sounds
I would have been.
It always
It's
sounds
like a Monty Python, yeah.
skit.
But it's
Like,
so authoritative.
If I got
you know?
arrested in England right now and they put me in jail,
You'd
they're
be
like,
laughing.
"Go get over there now." I'm like, come on.
But then you
I
just
can't
think of how
do
funny
that.
it is. Then you think of like those guards at like the palace where you.
Yeah. The
the
palace
beef
guard.
eaters.
Beef eaters, right? Yeah.
I think it's time to get some scores if we got through everybody's notes, right?
I'm just going back way quick
You
through
said
my
you were
notes.
done. You're done. You have anything else you wanted to bring?
No, I think we covered just about everything.
Yeah.
So
I'm good. I even have my score in the bottom of these notes.
All right,
'cause
so
I
why
didn't
don't we
wanna,
go to Brian and Connor's scores first?
Oh, you got Connor's score too.
Yeah.
Did he watch it with you the whole movie? Did I miss
He
that?
watched, yeah.
He sat and watched the whole movie with you.
He sat and watched the
Because
whole
Michelle
movie.
got up halfway through the movie and walked away. So,
So we don't have a score for Michelle?
So did
her score's like a 0.
oh gosh.
I walked out for about 20 minutes.
You walked out during the course of the movie
At the end or at the
No, like in the middle.
and didn't hit pause.
No,
So you
I told
left.
Connor, I said, keep watching.
Well, you know something? My son, I watched the first half with him until he got hit with the milk bottle in the face. And then he was incarcerated. And my son walked out on it because he said it was just too uncomfortable for
really?
him. Yeah. And he was like, I don't like this movie.
He's a fucking millennial. They
Yeah.
got all knotted up about shit.
But when I
Gen
watched
Z.
it,
or Gen Z.
They
yeah.
did.
when I
right?
watched it this morning, he came back in because I let him know I'm putting on Clockwork Orange because I'm doing a podcast. I just want to brush up on it.
I have to be official for this thing
yeah,
tonight.
Yeah, so he came in almost like right where it left off, and he stuck it out. And he said, I feel very uncomfortable watching this part because he just said the anxiety is so great, so
I guess that's good.
but he liked it.
too.
Yeah,
I-
no, he
right?
really did.
Before
but
we do
he
scores,
wasn't
though-
ready. This was like maybe 2 years ago. He watched it the first time around. He wasn't ready for it.
Yeah.
We have not talked at all about his eyes being pulled apart.
yeah,
and-
yes.
Did we talk about
No,
that?
we didn't.
Oh, we
we
didn't talk
can
about
talk
that.
about it now, but did you know
I-
that was a real doctor
Yeah,
that was doing the
I was gonna
drops?
say like
And-
he had to
and-
have drops put in his eyes because
Constantly.
he was just
Yeah.
like pulled apart. And,
Well, yeah, that was
Oh.
like a horror scene in itself.
is-
He scratched his cornea,
Yeah,
or they scratched,
he
his cornea.
during that scene,
Yeah.
and that was a real doctor that was pouring
Yeah.
his drops. in
I
his eyes.
thought about that as I'm watching that. I'm like, how is you as an actor allow
Yes.
this to happen
Yeah.
unless you have a doctor, some kind of lawyer,
Medical
present
staff.
saying like, listen, if they fuck my eyes up,
There's got to be something in your contract that if you do some kind
when
of
they
damage,
put the first one in, they were already in his eye, and you're like, okay, that looks bad.
And they're trying
when,
to hook him
when they
in
start to
there.
do the second one, you see there's like a spring and a hook. I'm like, the fuck.
That's
I'm
when
like,
I came back
How would
in.
they allow this?
Okay,
to
was that
happen?
where you got
I came back
uncomfortable with
in.
it? Yeah,
No, I came
Oh,
back
oh.
in and I was just
ready to leave again.
I knew that scene was there, but that actually drew me back in because I'm like, they're really putting that into his eye. I don't remember that. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching the little hook part under
Yeah.
get into, and I'm
when
just
it's-
like,
when it's
how
going-
he's letting them do
Yes.
this.
Yeah.
How is he not screaming?
And knowing that Malcolm
was.
McDowell to this day Malcolm McDowell doesn't wear glasses or anything. I mean, maybe he has LASIK or contacts, but his eyes weren't fucked up from filming that scene. And
Yeah.
that's
You would think
also
they would have
you're
it.
right. That's iconic because when
Yes.
Logan was asking me yesterday, he's like, "What movie are you doing tomorrow?" I'm like, "Clockwork Orange." He's like, "I don't even know what that is." I'm like, "The dude with the eyes all pulled back," and he's like, I guess I know that.
Yeah.
That's the one.
That's
thing.
iconic from this. I think that's the one thing that anybody would know. From
And that
this
was the
movie.
picture I sent in our piss couch.
Yes, yes,
you know,
you did.
of him doing that. And you guys were like, "Hey, you should come do the podcast."
That's a movie. He's like, let's
Yeah.
do that movie.
Yeah.
I think Andy said, do that
Yeah.
movie. Yeah.
I thought Anthony was going to do it, so
He's
that's why I
doing,
never even
Apocalypse Now,
suggested
He's
it.
doing
Yeah,
Apocalypse. Yeah.
yeah.
that's
So
gonna be
this
fun.
was always a favorite of mine. So you know my rating is going to be very high. So
You can
All right,
go
well, wait.
first.
No,
You're
we're
in
gonna
it.
do,
You're in it. Go. Brian's already going. Mac's already
Okay.
going. Do it. Give me
okay,
a score.
I'm at 95%, man. I love this fucking movie
Max at
because there's a lot of meaning behind it too, and there's a lot of messages and things. And the only thing that would score higher might be 2001 and Interstellar. So
Interstellar.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
well, I'm a sci-fi freak, so.
Go, Brian.
I
Other
wasn't.
Brian.
I wasn't a huge fan of this.
Give Connor a score first.
Connor liked the movie, although it's his least favorite Stanley Kubrick movie.
How many?
I don't know how many he's seen.
Okay. Okay. That's
but
fair.
I think he gave it a 77.
All right, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
What do you give it? I'm afraid. I'm nervous now.
I gave it a 45.
Hey, nullify my rating. That's all.
Well, only because it's just not a Brian movie.
I mean, but what's your problem with it besides the ultra violent? Like,
no,
We're ultra-violent.
The nudity.
It's
I
the same
love the
thing.
nudity.
you love it.
We all love the nudity.
45 for loving a nudity.
You love Malcolm McDowell's Big Johnson sitting there like.
Yeah, all that stuff.
There was a lot of schwanzes.
It's like Game of Thrones. You have to take the good with the bad. You know, it's all nudity.
It just didn't. I had a hard time staying. Like I would have if Connor wasn't there. I would have sped it up.
With Stanley Kubrick in general, like Shining, Full Metal Jacket, what do you think about that? Do you
I
just
love The Shining. Like
Okay.
that would be my number.
He didn't
one
even know
Stanley
he did
Kubrick.
Full Metal Jacket.
But yeah, I didn't even know Full Metal Jacket. But Full Metal Jacket
see that movie?
2001 would definitely
2001.
be right up
All
there.
right.
too.
Did you ever
Like,
see Full Metal Jacket?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
All right.
I give it an 88. I like this movie a lot. It's one of those movies that, again, I know it's very violent. I know it may look in a negative light today in today's culture.
But it's very
in today's
indicative of
but I
today's
think-
culture.
I think
So
exactly.
love
I think
it.
it's But at the same
timeless.
time, I think it's got rewatchability, and it's an 88 for me. It's a movie I've watched. I haven't watched this in at least 15 years. I'd have to say 15, 20 years. But I'm glad I got to watch it for the podcast. It was a good choice. I give it an 88.
I give it an 85. I felt this is the third time I've watched it all the way through. I watched it I'm going to say 7 or 8 years ago. I fell into I wanted to watch all his movies. So I've watched most of his movies before, but I watched them all back to back to back. And it's not as good as Shining. In my mind, it's not as good as Full Metal Jacket. I'm not a big fan of 2001, so we can fight about that later. I felt it was long
It's
and boring.
it's long, dry, and boring. But if you're,
You want to put Strange Love up there? I'd put
in
Strange
fact-
Love up there.
but at least it was.
In fact, if I remember
he did
correctly,
a great job of predicting the future.
the first time I ever watched it might have been in Brian Mack's
He didn't do
dorm
Back to the
room at
Future.
Ryder. That might have been the first time I ever watched
probably
that
was,
movie.
yeah.
But I liked this movie. It was fun in a sick,
In a very
fucking way.
ultra-violent way.
violent
with the old in and
way.
out. Yeah.
I'd like to see. I viddy the in and out.
Yeah, no, this is great. I don't know rewatchability. I'm not going to sit down and watch this like The Shining. If it's on tomorrow, I'm watching it. Full Metal Jacket, I'm watching it. This, I'm like, all right, let's fast forward to the good parts.
But here's the thing: how often is this on? Though,
No,
right?
it's not. It's not one of those. You have to search this out.
Yeah.
And I think by
I
my
watched it
score,
on HBO Max, by the way.
See, and I grew
I
up
think
with
we all
this
did,
movie.
right?
My high rating is
Yeah,
because I
and that's
grew up
fine.
with
And
it
I
and
think-
I evolved with it. Well, you can't really say you evolved with A Clockwork Orange.
this is
you
a movie that
devolved
you should watch. So
with
it's on HBO Max. Watch it. I highly recommend watching this movie if you've
It's
never
definitely
seen
worth
it
watching
before.
if you've never
Yeah.
seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a movie you got to watch. But that's all I got. Watch it.
Yeah.
HBO Max. If you're paying for HBO Max, watch this fucking movie. Stop watching.
Yeah, I almost paid for it.
Oh, what is White Lotus?
And then
on
I
HBO
realized
Max?
I have
Fuck
HBO
White
Max,
Lotus.
so I was like, "Well, free,
Yeah. HBO Max, it's on. Yep.
Everybody,
HBO Max has a lot of good movies on right now.
I'm a little nervous. HBO Max has me nervous now because the HBO the
'cause the
Discovery guy
Discovery
took
thing,
over,
yeah.
and now he's canceling shit. But
Who's doing Velma?" Because I want to
HBO
stay the
Max.
fuck away from that.
Don't
really,
watch it. Don't
HBO
watch
Max?
it.
Yeah.
I never saw it.
I've not
and
watched
don't
any
watch
of it.
it.
Yeah,
No.
so I didn't see
All I
any of it.
heard is that it's too woke, and the woke don't like it, and
I heard-
not woke.
The
don't
woke
like
think
it.
as like a counterintelligence from the Republican Party.
I was scrolling through my Twitter the other day. Sean Ono Lennon
Okay, John's second
Yep.
kid.
hated it. He says, "Get this wokeness out of here." He says it's horrible.
I watched it. I don't see how it's
Sean, come
I
on
don't
our
see how
podcast.
it's woke.
Well, because Velma's an Indian.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
and
I
Shaggy's
didn't know
black.
Shaggy's
and-
black, right?
I didn't know. I could tell that Shaggy was black, but I didn't know that Velma was
A lesbian
Well,
too.
Mindy does.
until
Mindy
I
Kaling
saw
does
her
it.
next. Like, there's a lot of nudity in it. Then, like when they were in
Is there really
Cartoon nudity?
Oh yeah, yeah.
What?
I feel
It is. I only watched it because
The
I heard
nudity.
there was so much hate on it, and I was just
You
like,
probably
"What
did
is
watch
this
it for the
about?" And I watched it, and I was just like, "Why are people hating on this?"
That's
This
all.
is-
I've heard nothing but hate.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
heard
Yeah,
no
same here.
positive
I would
reviews on
definitely
this.
watch it just to
Well,
see
Riley
what you
tried to.
think,
my
because-
son
I
tried
didn't-
to put
I
it on.
I
and
did
it
not
was,
hear anything
I thought it
about
was terrible.
nudity or anything like that. Did you?
Yeah.
Who's naked?
Daphne in the shower with
Oh.
a bunch of her friends.
If it was the movie cast, I'd be all into
I'll watch
it.
that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, is it
Yeah.
Sarah Michelle Gellar?
Yes. Yeah.
No, Daphne is Asian, I think, but she doesn't look Asian.
Oh,
You
kind
don't
of like
that.
like
You obviously
Filipino.
like Asian.
No, because she's tall and redheaded. Well, whatever. Yeah, Daphne.
Well,
has
nowadays you
red hair.
can be all you can be.
Yeah,
be,
that's
be
true.
whatever you want to be. So, yeah.
And Glenn Howerton was Fred.
Okay.
He's still white, and they make fun of him, from what I understand.
And who's playing
Well,
Scooby?
they make fun of him.
Does he still have an ascot?
because he's white, right?
Well,
he's
not
still
because
wearing
he's
an
white, just
ascot?
because he's a dick.
Okay. Well, he's the jock. Yeah, right?
Exactly,
Yeah, the
yeah.
Chad.
Who's playing Scooby?
There is no Scooby.
Yeah, see, fuck.
How's there no
anything
Scooby? That
with
doesn't make any sense.
Like
Come
the whole
on.
thing is based on
Yeah.
a dog.
It wasn't great, but
Right.
Shaggy?
it's
No,
it's
Shaggy
something I'll
had
probably
it-
watch.
they
a
used his
couple
real
more
name in it.
episodes.
Who's Shaggy though?
It's his
Shaggy
the name.
is the guy from Veep, black
Tony
guy.
Hale? Black guy? I don't know.
Yeah.
He was also from the Detroiters.
But they can't use
Richardson,
Shaggy's name. They use they use his real
I don't
name
think I know
in
him.
it.
Yeah.
He's very funny.
I don't know. Yeah, but what is next week on our podcast? Do we know what's going to be next week? Possibly
Apocalypse Now with Anthony
or with Dana, Cannibal Run with Dana,
or
possibly.
Kevin Smoking the Bandit.
Smoking the Bandit, possibly with Kevin. So
And
sorry,
that'll
we're not sure which one's
that'll
coming up.
fill up the rest of our not 1983 calendar, and then we will hit the ground running with Rumblefish in 1983.
1983 Rumblefish. And then I think after Rumblefish, you better go to Spreaker because that's where you're going to find our podcast. There and everywhere else you find podcasts. Podcasts are in Spotify, Apple, Google, all those good places. It's The Jazoo on Instagram, Jazoo74 on Twitter. I'm Jason. This has been the Exciting and New Podcast.
AE 1 on Twitter, AE 1970 on Instagram. I'm Andy.
And I'm Brian, Papa Bad Kitty.
And I'm Mac, guest starring, and I am everywhere and nowhere.
Brian Mack.
And
BRYAN.
wanted by
MAC.
the tri-state area for crimes against humanity.